Welcome to Torah Smash, the podcast for nerdy Jews, where our lives of Jewish learning collide with our love of nerd culture. In each episode, we discuss what we lovingly call a Torah Smash, which we have defined as a beautiful collision of one thing from the world of Judaism with another from nerd culture. I'm Ethan Lane Miller, and joining me today are
Barack Malkin.
RDY.
Micol Zimmerman.
Woohoo! Our guest for today's episode is Micol Zimmerman.
Welcome back.
Yeah, second time around.
Micol has dedicated her career to helping people find their why and their way to the best, fullest, and most authentic versions of themselves. As an executive coach, consultant, and facilitator, she works with nonprofit leaders, educators, clergy, and communal professionals to help them increase their impact, maximize their potential, and live and lead with purpose. A seasoned educational leader, Micol has worked to elevate and reimagine nonprofit engagement and leadership for the last 2 decades, placing wonder, authenticity, and meaning at the center. In the summer of 2024, Micol launched Wonder Coaching, dedicating her practice to helping as many people as possible live their why and embrace wonder. An avid lover of pop culture, she uses film and television to bring Jewish text and values to life in a fusion she calls Pop Torah, which she has presented at national and international conferences and for communities around the country. Her friends have lovingly referred to her as IMDb, Internet Micol Database, based on her delightfully nerdy recall of film and television and her ability to connect any and all conversations back to the same area of pop culture. She is also a self-proclaimed champion of 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Micol lives in Natick, Massachusetts, with her husband, Rabbi Danny Berkman, and their 2 adorable and exhausting children, Gabby and Benny. Micol, welcome back to Torah Smash.
So good to have you.
Welcome. Yay.
You nailed it, Ethan. You nailed it.
Thank you.
Did we talk about the Kevin Bacon connection last time? I'm 2 degrees away.
You personally are 2 degrees away.
I personally am 2 degrees away.
Oh, wow. So my claim to fame is just my ability to win that game. Meaning, if we're playing, I can connect any actor from any other actor just because of my recall and because I like to win. But I'm curious, could you tell us a little bit about your connection to Kevin Bacon?
Oh, I would love to. I was an extra in the TV movie Pirates of Silicon Valley with Noah Wyle, who was in A Few Good Men with Kevin Bacon.
Wow. Did you stay in touch with Noah Wyle? I love Noah Wyle.
When he came to Pittsburgh, I was like texting him like, "What up? You want to meet for one of their stupid sandwiches with French fries on it?"
There's nothing stupid about French fries on a sandwich.
Sorry, they put French fries in salad too, and they call it gourmet.
I'm down with French fries in just about anything.
French fries and salad, yes. French fries on salad is soggy salad and cold fries.
Unless they're really crispy and then they add crunch.
It's really hard to do that. Yeah, sorry, Pittsburgh. Having a lot of fun in your city, not having fun eating your food.
Well, that's an amazing connection. Honestly, I'm more impressed with the Noah Wyle connection than the Kevin Bacon. But
Yeah.
I'm loving. I rewatched ER at some point in the last year, and so I was already kind of like on a Noah Wyle kick, and then The Pit, which is blowing me away. And I'm
Are you
so
finished with season 2?
Yeah.
So good.
It is so good. And I'm just so happy Noah Wiley's got his moment again, right? I mean, he's had a steady career, but he's back in the spotlight and it's just like no better guy. And it makes me happy.
Micol, I don't know that I've ever said this to you, but we first met in 2012, which is a horrifying long time ago now, when you were doing a presentation for a group of Nifty advisors. And I don't remember what the PowerPoint was, but I remember I said, I need to aspire to that level of like fun, kitschy pop culture references and PowerPoints. And now 14 years later, when I'm making PowerPoints, I still have a voice in my head that's like, gosh, how do I do this PowerPoint in Micol style? How do I pull in pop culture?
Oh, that's fun.
I should take the opportunity to say that to you. And so thank you.
Thank you.
So excited to have you on to talk about another exciting pop culture thing.
Yeah. Oh, I'm really excited. So the truth of the matter is, guys, is that when Barack first proposed the possibility of me coming back on the podcast, and I don't know how long, Barack, this was now, a number of months ago, I really just wanted an excuse to talk Stranger Things with somebody, because it is one of my favorite shows of all time now. It has just sort of climbed the ladder. And it was one of those shows that's kind of tough because there were such long stretches in between that I felt like it sort of, it lost some steam, and then I got back on the train, and then I lost some steam again, and I got back on the train. But oh my God, these last 2 seasons, and this last season in particular, it was so exciting. And all I wanted to do is talk to someone about it. And my husband won't get past season 2.
Oh, no.
Season 2, there's like kind of I remember 2. I think I dropped off 2. And then I think once season 3 was out, I went back and I rewatched it. And then once you get to a certain point and you're hooked, but you gotta get there. And he just won't do it. And so
that's so hard when you're watching a show with somebody else in the household, and then you end up getting ahead, and they're like, no, I'll catch up. And then you've now finished the series and they've barely begun.
And I'm so it's like, I'm not like, listen, I am like this with a lot of shows, but I'm not like this with every show. And I was so excited. And this last season, and this season in particular, and I was this close. Okay, so my son is 10. He just turned 10 in March. I was rationalizing to myself all of the reasons why it would be okay to start watching Stranger Things with him, just so I would have someone to talk about with Stranger Things. And it got to a point where I feel like Danny had to almost like physically put it. He was like, no, you cannot.
Oh,
Here are
man.
the reasons you cannot. And Benny was getting excited because I was kind of like, no. And Benny really wants to watch it. But the truth of the matter is, it's just a little too scary. There are just parts of it that are too scary.
Yeah.
What about starting them on the cartoon that debuted today?
What?
Oh, as when we record, yeah.
As of recording, today, Thursday, April 23rd, the Stranger Things 85 cartoon debuted.
I know nothing about this. How can I not know anything about
10 episodes dropped.
I don't know how many dropped, but I didn't know it was coming out this soon.
This is the same creators?
Yeah. That is a good question.
Oh my goodness. Well, this is something to look into. But I guess we'd have to find out, is the intention that it's supposed to be okay?
It's like a prequel version-ish, prequel-ish version. It's like between season 1 and 2.
Between 1 and 2, yeah. In between season 1 and
can
season
you
2.
enjoy but would he enjoy it if he doesn't know, if he hasn't seen?
That's a great question.
Okay, you'll let me know. Here's the thing.
It's rated TV 14.
Okay, you watch it, maybe you let me know. It's one of these things. My son so he wants to be a film director, and he is just really into he's really into horror, except that it scares him. So he's really he knows all the characters, not because of me, because he watches stuff on YouTube. So he knows all the horror movies and all the horror characters, and he can talk about it, no problem. But if he watches it, there's still scenes in Beetlejuice that scare him.
Yeah.
So I don't know that Stranger Things is the right show.
Yeah.
So he does have a breath to binge the whole thing.
Yeah.
As far as the cartoon is concerned, the Duffer Brothers are only credited as having inspired it.
Interesting. Okay,
can I ask which of us have seen Stranger Things? Because we know Micol has.
Oh boy.
I know I have. Okay, me too.
So I have not, and there's a reason why I wanted to host, so I can make sure I get some speaking time in this episode. But
I'm hosting the next Star Trek one.
You know what? We've done something like that before, and I loved it. It was one of my favorite episodes. But I am excited to ask questions. I already know there's a character called 11, and if the show is made now, the character would be called 6'7".
Oh
God! Oh God!
No.
So good.
Oh
Amazing.
gosh! Well,
Nicole, people have had much worse reasons to come on to Torah Smash. We are excited to talk to you about Stranger
but wait,
Things.
so now I'm worried about spoiling something for you.
No, do it.
No,
Never.
it's too far.
No.
It's too far gone.
We have a rule. It's
I've
but Oh,
No, do it.
No. Spoilers
Yeah.
are not a bad thing
Yeah.
when it's more than what do we say? I mean,
2
I say
months?
2 weeks for major stuff,
Oh.
but
oh no.
2 weeks for major stuff where it's like a shame, like you should be ashamed you haven't seen it yet. But like 2 months for just about anything.
Plus, whatever the title of this is going to say like something along the lines of Stranger Things, and
Yeah.
people will know.
There you go. Okay.
Look,
okay.
I've assumed at the end of Project Hail Mary they find Mary, so like it's fine.
Oh my gosh, they do. How
Ethan,
did you
I
know?
really want you to. I mean, you and I have never sat down and really talked about your specific tastes, but I feel like there's a lot of overlap, and I really want you to watch this show.
I
I think he would.
It's on the
enjoy it.
list.
Yeah, it's on his list.
Just this show.
He has limited time as a camp director.
Yes, that's true.
I mean,
I think
of course, all three of you also, so much time in your professional lives.
so much free
Yeah.
time. That's all I have.
I find time for shows like this.
Yes. Well, I'm very excited to lead us into the topic.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, like, there's so many things that I love about it, but there's two things in particular that I just really excite me about the show generally and make me love it so much. Actually, there's probably three things. The first most obvious one is that it feels like I'm watching my son and his friends. I mean, there is something really deeply, personal about, right? My son who has just started D&D and
Yep.
he and his friends have kind of started their own D&D group and sort of make it up as they go along. And for Hanukkah this year, when my parents said, just tell us what you want and we'll get it for you. Benny wanted the D&D textbooks, the manuals. That's what he wanted.
Amazing.
And
Nice.
he's taught himself to be a dungeon master. And there is something about this group starts with boys. They do add a girl. They add a few girls, but it starts with these group of boys who are just these creative, brilliant, nerdy, like, just storyteller boys. And they're all heart. And they're portrayed in this really beautiful way. And so I realized as I was getting towards the end of the season and I was starting to get like the final season, and I was starting to get teary and sentimental. And I realized how much I almost was feeling very maternal to the, I guess you also reach an age, right? But I was like, oh my gosh, I've gotten to watch these boys grow up and I've gotten to see these boys that, I think grew up being these sort of outcasts and nerds and treated a particular way and bullied, who grow up into these wonderful, successful, thriving humans who, save the world and are just so special and seen, right? Like publicly acknowledged as being awesome humans, was just, it brought all the feels out for me as a mom of a very special, awesome kid. And so, one, that is one of the reasons that I really love it. Two, when there are shows where it's all, or movies, and it's just about like one, let's say it's a superhero and it's just about the one person that does everything, right? Like that has the super strength and all the power and they alone, right, are the ones who save the world. Like it's just about them. That it bores me. I'm uninterested in that. I love a team dynamic, right? I'm a coach in my professional life, and I do a lot of leadership coaching and professional development. So I'm all about teams. And I love that in this movie, even though, so Ethan, there's a character, 11, who we know this young girl comes and has all these superpowers and we really don't understand it, right? Like we don't know who she is or where she came from or what her backstory was. But there's this sort of temptation to make it just all about her, right? Like this girl and she has the power and she's going to save everyone. But this is actually a show, and I think especially as you move along in the seasons, that is about this group and how the reason they're able to defeat this evil, the reason they're able to defeat the bad guy and save everyone is because of the combination of all of their strengths and qualities and working together. There is no one person that can do it.
like a competent D&D party.
Hey,
Yeah.
it's also a direct foil to the way the bad guy works. Where
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
also needs a team, but he siphons them. He doesn't use their
Yeah.
support or give them
Yeah.
support.
Yes. And that is something, by the way, and especially this final season where they actually, I would say, okay, season 4 and season 5, they both, right? Like they get into the backstory, but this last season in particular shows it gives us a lot more about Vecna. Can I just about
Yeah.
Vecna, about Henry, about who he was and how he grew up and what happened. But I think that piece, RDY, is one of the things that is so striking to me is that I see in his childhood and his experience is the loneliness, is that he didn't have people. He didn't. And you wonder, right? It always makes me wonder. And I think about this all the time when I just think about stories of superheroes and villains, right? There's always there's a very, very thin line. There's a veil between what makes someone a superhero and what makes someone a supervillain, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
sometimes they go back and forth, they switch, and it's always the most complicated ones that are most interesting. And I think when you really think about it, I think so much comes down to who they're surrounded by and who they have with them.
That's why
Yeah.
our middle child's name is Alexander, so that he would have the choice throughout his life to be like Alexander the Great or to be like Lex Luthor, whose full name is Alexander.
Oh, I love that. Have you had that conversation with him?
Mm-hmm.
How does
Oh,
he
he knows.
respond? How does he respond to that?
Oh, he's 19.
Yeah, I've heard about very important conversations parents have to have with their children. I've never heard of this being one.
It's very important. You got to choose the good.
You do have to choose. Listen, I say that to Benny all the time. I'm like, you can use your powers for good or you can use your powers for evil. What's it going to be?
Yeah.
And the hardest part about that is it never is marked. The
No.
good is never marked. The evil is never marked. And more to the point, it's usually not good and evil. It's usually bad and a little bit less bad.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, especially when you get to the teenage years.
I don't know when. I know we're a bit in, and I don't know if you have a specific smash in mind, but I have a guess for this smash.
Okay. I also haven't even said the third thing I love.
Oh my gosh! Okay,
But
say the
no,
third. Say the third
But
one.
I kind of no. I want to hear it. I want to hear what your smash suggestion.
I have two guesses.
Okay.
One of them is Hevruta, and the other is a minion. I lean more towards Hevruta for the partnership aspect of it.
Do you need to define that for your listeners? Do you need
Sure, yeah. For my
Jason.
friend Jason, who's not Jewish, Hevruta is a study partner. Essentially, it's one or more people that you regularly get together with to learn from one another.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's funny because what I was thinking was actually a Talmudic quote, technically a Mishnaic quote, which hits solid on what you're saying. I was thinking ten lecha rav ukneh lecha chaver, which means get yourself a rabbi, acquire for yourself a friend. Like that need to be in group.
Yeah.
The two things that you conceptualized are summarized by the quote.
Yeah.
I love that. And by the way, I mean, for me, I'll tell you, I'm not going to get there yet. When like I said, I was driven mainly by the motivation to talk to some awesome people. I mean, I feel like I basically I brought you here under false pretenses. I just needed friends to talk about the show with. No, but the truth is, as opposed to 4 years ago when I came on and I had a very specific connection in mind, this could have gone lots of ways. And the truth is, I think when we think about Judaism, and it's interesting, you came up with Chavruta and Minyan, right? Is that we're a tribal religion. We are a communal religion. We are very little about Judaism is about individual. I think it is very much about surrounding ourselves with people, whether that's for study or celebration or ritual. It's all very communal and tribal. And so I think I'm not surprised to know that there are lots of potential connections here. And maybe it's also part of what I love about it so much. But I will tell you, Barak, none of those are it.
No.
But But I will tell you, Barack, when I first, because I even said to Danny, I was like, okay, this is what I want to talk about. What is that? What does it remind you of? What does it make you think of? And one of the things he talked about was Minion. He goes, well, actually, it makes me think a little bit about this. So I actually think that's the most fun part of this conversation is to hear what it brings up for you.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite part of this whole project also. Yeah.
Yeah. So the third. So okay, so that piece of it, right? And I think it really in all of the seasons you see an elements of it, but I think especially in the fourth and the fifth, like it really became because I think even in the beginning, it was still so much about the reliance on 11, the reliance on the one with the powers, or the reliance on the adults, right? Like to come in versus no, we all have something to offer. We all and most of them starting to feel more empowered and more confident in their special skills and qualities and what they could bring to this group. And so, by the way, I mean, side note, I know this isn't supposed to be about more than one thing, but I'm also a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. And there is a lot of connections. I think it's also one of the reasons I love this show so much is it also was so much about what made Buffy successful was that she had this group of friends to support her. And it is what distinguished her from other Slayers. But I think in this story too, what allowed them to succeed was this group. And actually without them, it would have ended very differently. It would have ended very differently if they had not all been together, if there had not been trust established, and had they not sort of felt empowered by each other. And that brings me to the third one. So the third reason I like it so much. So I say empowered by each other because these kids, I mean, they really were adults at the end of it, but they started as kids. They all started as young kids. And they were not empowered by the adults around them, right? They, like I said, right there, first of all, a specific group that were seen, especially right back in the 80s, right? Very kind of stereotypical nerds who were ostracized, who were bullied, who were picked on and put in a very particular box of kind of what they could offer the world of, teenagers at that time. And the adults in their life kind of ranged from apathetic, if you sort of look, I guess, more at like Mike's parents. I don't know if even Lucas's parents were even involved. I can't even really remember much of their presence.
We
see them, but they
weren't
basically just scold.
Right. And then right on the other side of Joyce, who understandably is dealing with some serious trauma, but also is so overprotective and doesn't seem to believe that her son can do anything. Right. So like, I have to do everything for him. He can't do it.
Yeah, it took her 5 seasons to allow him to have the space.
Oh my God. And it took like halfway through the 5th season. It was driving me crazy.
Yeah.
And I still, connected to it as a mother who is very protective. And the idea of going through something like that, I wouldn't want to ever leave my child alone again. Ethan, and I guess listeners who have not seen it, Will in the first season goes missing. And it's all about trying to find Will. And Joyce is Will's mother. And sort of them banding together. So yes, there is this huge trauma that happens. So she doesn't want to leave his side again. But I really think that piece of that's the adults in it, right? And then you also have like teachers, and you have like the principal's sort of a jerk, right? Like, I mean, you have like your very typical in the 80s how adults are represented. But the reason I said they empowered themselves is because no one else around them was taking them seriously, cared what they had to say, refused to see them in any sort of dimensional way, right? Like they were very kind of 2D, that sort of Breakfast Club, like the this and the that, like they were just named in a particular way.
You're describing my upbringing.
And I think a lot of people's, right?
Well, according to the timeline of the show, I was a freshman when these guys were seniors.
Oh, wow. Who else was also a freshman at that time? Was this, were you like Erica's age? Lucas's sister? and Holly, were they all the same age?
Yeah, I guess I was Erica's and Holly's age. I graduated high school in 92 and they all graduated in 89.
Aha. Yeah.
Very funny.
So tell me, Artie, why did you feel a strong connection to these characters?
Oh, yes. As will come as no surprise to any of our listeners, I'm a huge D&D nerd, so right there they had me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like the regular referring to the bad guys as D&D monsters was kind of added an extra layer of fun flavor for me, but also like those were the outfits I wore and those were the things that I did, and I probably had one of those bikes, and like come back when the street lights are on kind of upbringing, and anyone's friend's parents could yell at me. It was, I mean, it was very nostalgic.
Yeah. It's so funny because I love being a D&D mom, I'll say, right? Like the mom of a D&D kid. D&D was not something.
Who wants snacks? Mom.
Oh my God, they just come in and get it. This is fun. I could tell you a little bit about the D&D table in our house. It's actually amazing. It's the most amazing thing. I'll tell you about it in a second. But I actually think I would have. It's not what I was. I was into athletics when I was younger. I spent most of my time in competitive gymnastics, and I just wasn't. I didn't have that. My friends and I didn't have that. I would have loved it. The truth is, right? I love stories, and I would have loved it. And I love living vicariously through Benny, he is such a storyteller always. Since he learned how to talk, he was telling stories. And so I love kind of experiencing it through him and having him explain things to me. So that it's a funny thing, right? Because it actually feels this show, even though I feel the nostalgia deeply, I'm a little younger than you, RDY. I feel it deeply, but for whatever reason, it is much more reflective of the present for me. And I think that's because of Benny in that way, and like him and his friends and seeing that. And also the kind of, this sounds harsh, but I'll say it, the parent I don't want to be, right? I want to be the parent that has that confidence in my children and empowers them and doesn't doubt them. And, I help them and I support them, but I don't want them to question whether or not they can do things. I want them to believe that they can, and I want to encourage them to do that.
And
Yeah.
and you won't be watching this with Benny for a bit, but like
I mean, maybe another year. I can't hold off for too much.
Yeah, but like it's going to be so interesting to see what Benny is taking from this show and what you are taking from this show while you're going through it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I say that I think my favorite parent character isn't a parent in Stranger Things.
Who is it?
Murray. I think
Oh God,
does the best job of being what we'd want to be as a parent in terms of like is completely supportive and isn't a hand holder, right? He expects you to handle it yourself and fix your mistakes if you make those mistakes. But he'll get you the things that you need to do those things, but he's not going to handhold you,
including explosives and booze.
Yeah. But he's played by a Jewish actor.
I love, what's that?
Yeah, and
Brett Gelman.
Yeah.
In the making of little thing that they did, and there's like one of the scenes is a read through, and he's wearing a shirt with Hebrew on it. I kept trying to pause it so I could see what it said, but he kept moving, so I couldn't quite get a good pause. But I wanted to go back to the comment you made about the parenting a D&D kid and how that relates to the kind of absentee parents that were in the show, because it's at the end of the movie, it's Mike Wheeler who looks at his little sister instead of his kid playing D&D, and he gets that look like a parent, like it's their turn, and they're gonna go on these adventures, and they're gonna explore in ways that I used to, which also leads me to a question.
Yeah.
The show starts and ends with D&D.
Yeah.
And at the end of the series, when Mike is describing what happened to the helpful wizard who saved the day for all of them and then disappeared, we see flashes to Elle and her possibilities of her ending the story or not ending the story, or depending on whether you go by Callie's interpretation. Did it happen, or was it all D&D?
The whole thing or her ending?
The whole thing. Was the whole thing D&D?
No, I think it happened
I think it happened.
to them.
I haven't seen it, and I'm gonna say I think it happened.
Ethan.
Wait, I'm like on pins and needles here. I know we're like more than halfway through the episode already, and I only asked this just because my wife Michelle gets frustrated when we just nerd out on an episode and forget the Jewish. And so I want to ask, you were like wrapping up the third piece of like, we haven't even got what your core smashes here.
I mean, I'll reiterate that I just wanted to talk about it. But yeah, no, you know me. I'm a big Torah nerd, and I love to make the connections too. I just to wrap up that third point is
Yitro?
Is that what? Oh, that's an I would want to hear more about that. The temptation, the inclination to put children in boxes and to label them as just a thing, right? One thing. And by the way, the impact that has on them. We do this consciously and we do this subconsciously. And it kills me. And the educator in me, it kills me. And I saw them not just it being done to these characters, but they would do it to themselves or to each other. And one of the things I loved about the fourth and fifth season in particular is I felt like it finally was like breaking free of these labels and them in these boxes. And so I think that might help you potentially get to that connection.
I have two guesses.
Okay.
One is a bit of a deep cut guess and one's a standard guess.
Okay.
My deep cut guess is the Ben Sorero More, the wayward and defiant child who is told that they're behaving badly, they're a glutton and a drunkard, and they get stoned in the town square by the elders.
Holy crap.
Dark.
Yeah, and so is Stranger Things. So maybe that's why my mom
true. That's true. And so is our tradition. So it's fine. That's not it. But,
okay.
But when you started, I almost thought you got it, but you didn't.
When I because I said Ben?
Part of it, yeah.
Oh, because my second...
There was another word that you used too.
Okay, well, my more standard guess is Joseph. And how he was labeled the dreamer, the outsider, the freak, the nerd, and
I like that,
and ended up saving the world.
Yeah, I like that too. And also, we talked about in like 4 years ago is how, oh my God, these dysfunctional kids is a product of their dysfunctional upbringing of these parents. That anyway, that's not it. But I do like that answer.
Yeah. Well, what is it? Tell us. I'm sorry, Ethan. Oh, I said Yitro.
Well, tell me why you said Yitro.
Because you were talking about the characters' inabilities to sort of step outside of themselves until somebody else said you can trust your own decisions, kind of thing. And that's what happens with Yitro, is that he says to Moses, like, it's okay, you can let go, you can trust your community to do this, and helped him see past his own self to be able to then move forward.
What Yitro really says is, schmuck, you're doing it all wrong. But
right.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
But why Yitro?
Like a proper nerd.
But why Yitro can say it? Yitro is it's actually one of my favorite passages, but not for that part. Not for the part that everybody loves where Yitro says, what you're doing is wrong, stop, it's terrible. But for the part that nobody ever reads, which is before, is in the paragraphs before that happens. Yitro comes to Moses and visits them. And not only visits them, by the way, Yitro brings their children and Zipporah to Moses right before the revelation at Sinai. Had Yitro not brought them, they would not have been there for Sinai, because Moses was so, I don't want to say self-centered, but focused on self and other things that he forgot to bring his family. And so Yitro brings his family. Yitro sits with him all night. Yitro listens to him, to all of the issues that he's been having and all of the challenges, and they're together all night. And Yitro sits and he listens and he celebrates with him and he celebrates God. And Yitro is not an Israelite. Yitro is a Midianite chief, but he
But
says
his words give us our prayer language.
that's true. That's true. And he is all in because he is so supportive. I call Yitro the first mentor in our tradition. He's really the first mentor. And because he does all this, the next day when Moses is explaining something and he's like, this is all wrong, I use that. I also teach that as a way of like how we give feedback, because you can't just go in if you haven't taken the time to listen and validate and really get to know on a personal level the person that you're leading. You really don't have any business kind of giving critical feedback until you create that relationship.
Yeah.
But I love that answer, Barak. I had thought about that connection. It is not the connection.
Yeah. Ethan, you've heard a lot of lead-in for this. Do you have a guess as somebody who hasn't seen the show?
Nah.
Okay. All right, Micol, what is it?
I'm along for the ride, and it's
So
fun.
it's a little bit of a wacky connection. And by the way, Barak, when you and I had talked about this, it was a few months earlier, so it made a little more sense. But my connection is the four sons, but the four children in the Haggadah who are, in my opinion, so unfairly labeled for the questions that they bring. So this is in the Haggadah, but it's also, I think, like originates from two places. The questions themselves come from Torah, and the story about the four sons is like mentioned in Mechilta, something. It's in Midrash.
But actually, it's the answers that come from Torah.
It's the answers but also some of the questions too. I think when I was reading about it, I was reading something in Torah. There's something in Torah where it's like if the child asks about this. And
when your children ask you, your children ask, you tell the story. It doesn't have that is quoted in the Haggadah as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't have like your children is going to ask these words in the Torah, but it says when your children ask, you will tell them it's because I brought them out of Egypt with a mighty hand and outstretched arm.
Right, and there was from Exodus, from Deuteronomy, and it's sort of patchwork. And then in Midrash, they bring it together, right? There's a Midrash, and then they bring it together. But
in Masechet Pesachim in the Talmud.
There you go.
Sorry.
No, it's right. It's Mechilta. There's like the first time it's seen. I don't have it because I was looking it up, and it doesn't matter all that much. But the first time that it's seen, I believe. Oh yeah, Mechilta de Rabbi Ishmael is where the first kind of time that you see it. And then, but it wasn't a complete whole in the way that we see it in the Haggadah.
Right.
And I have always been so challenged by this part. And I love Pesach. I love Passover. I love the Seder. I always have. And it's always been a very big part of growing up in my family. And especially, for me, the youngest child, like there's so much kavod, there's so much respect given to children around the table during Passover. And I was the youngest of four, and it was a big family. And we really took advantage of the ask questions, ask lots of questions. I was the youngest child. I like to ask a lot of annoying questions to try and, get under my dad's skin or get a reaction. And so I loved it. And it was always a kind of joke in our house, right? My dad would say, okay, the wise child, and who is he going to pick to read it? Oh, the rebellious child, who is he going to pick to read it? I often got picked for that one.
My sister always got that one because her Hebrew name is Rasha.
Okay, well, that's a better reason than why I got picked. So I, especially once I became an educator, right, it really about seeing children for everything that they are and everything that they bring. It bothered me. It bothered me because also, to say nothing of, I hate it when people put people into boxes, right? When you make someone who's 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional. But the descriptors of these children did not match the questions that they asked at all, right? Like there was the idea that a child who says, what does this mean to you? Is seen as wicked, is seen as that means that it doesn't mean anything to them. When I think about how often my children ask what something means to me, because they look to me, they want to know, well, what does this mean to you before I figure out what it means to me? Or the simple child, quote unquote, simple child's question, who says, what is this? Like, what does this mean as a simple question when it's just such a big meta question? It's a real philosophical question. So around my Seder table, what we did this year was I put the question out there and I asked my kids, how would you describe someone who asked this question? Right.
Nice.
And so I'm right. A lot. The word empathic came up a lot. The word curious came up a lot. But this idea of, it gives both, right? For me, for both parts of the show. One is how we talk to our children, how we respond to them, how we respond to their curiosity and their questions makes a huge impact and difference, right?
Yeah.
It might impact whether or not they ask questions again, whether they feel comfortable asking those questions. Asking questions is how we make sense of our worlds. It's how we understand things. And so I used to always say, actually, the adjectives describing the children maybe were better suited for the adult that answered them.
Ooh, yeah.
This is great.
I also think that, in Rabbi Ishmael's depiction of the child who says, what is this to you? I think, in his mind, maybe that question had a little mustard on it where it was like, what does this mean to you?
Yeah.
And I heard a great teaching in Israel from my Hebrew teacher in our first year, Sima Haruv, who taught us that the 4 children were 4 generations of a family. That first generation is the person who's so passionate about Pesach and always hosts a Seder and always makes sure that everybody's gathered around the table. And maybe this person's child kind of rebelled against that and said, you know what? Not really my thing. They become kind of wicked, rebellious. I like translating that as rebellious child because we should all have a little wicked in us from time to time. And so maybe when that child grows up, they don't always bring their kids around for the Jewish stuff, but they're still there for Seder because that person's parent demands it. So when the grandparent is bringing this simple child around, they don't really have the vocabulary to ask more than, what is this? And they kind of need it all explained because they don't have much exposure. And then the next generation, the Eino Yodea Lishol, the one who doesn't know to ask, it's not that they don't know to ask, it's that grandpa's gone and not hosting anymore. Dad never wanted to. And so there was nothing to expose this child to. And so they don't know to ask because there's nothing about which to ask. And that's the importance of participating in this community of heroes that we are.
That's interesting. I've never heard that before. I like that theory. It makes me feel a little differently about, my challenging feelings with the 4 children. But I also like, right, just the idea of actually, instead of rushing immediately to judgment, and we do that as adults, we do that as human beings, right? But like, what would it mean instead to lean into curiosity, right? Be curious, not judgmental. Walt Whitman, Ted Lasso, right? Take your choice, take your pick.
I do like this idea of like the wrong label, which is definitely a theme throughout the series.
Yes.
In terms of with the Hellfire Club whole situation.
Eddie.
Yeah, right.
Eddie.
Eddie.
Did you notice that when Dustin finished his graduation, he did all the things that Eddie said he was going to do?
Yeah, that was great. That was so good.
I didn't notice it at first. I had to watch it a few times, and I had to go down the rabbit hole a little bit. Guys, I consumed some serious Stranger Things. At one point, my Instagram search bar was all Stranger Things content. I really went down the rabbit hole, but what I needed to do was watch 4 before 5, and I would have remembered, but I couldn't.
Which is what I did.
Which is the way, frankly, it's the way to do it. And Ethan, that's how you should do it. So.
Yeah. So I think throughout the series, right, there's a lot of mislabeling happening with a lot of different characters. So I think you're spot on with this in terms of yes, the nerds that we've meet at the beginning are labeled as outsiders and nerds and become the heroes that we needed them to be. And, the way that Henry was treated to become Vecna, the way that Hopper was at the beginning and how he got mislabeled or given the title of parent or father when he didn't think he could have been after losing his daughter. Like so many mislabelings going on that I really like. I like that attachment to this series as a theme.
The way
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons was mislabeled as something evil during
Yeah.
Satanic Panic.
Yeah, absolutely. Can
And-
I? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
no, 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 no. I'm going to derail us on a season 5 rant.
I mean, I want to hear it, so I'm going to need to hear it. But I really, as I think about it more and more, this idea of these 4 kids and just the children in general, for me, it is a tale. It is a cautionary tale about how we welcome people around the table, how we help people believe in their own abilities rather than either dismiss them, don't see them, or make them question themselves, right? And like I said, that range of the adults, of the way that the adults interacted with the kids, like, and sometimes out of love, like you looked at Hopper and you looked at Joyce, who loved those kids so much,
Yeah.
but got in the way every time because they did not believe that they could do it.
Yeah.
They did not believe in their abilities. And it was heartbreaking to see, not just heartbreaking to see, but like to see the impact that it had on them, to see the impact it had on Will until the very end, how filled with self-doubt he was, how terrified he was because he did not trust himself, because the person that is supposed to love him most did not trust him.
Yeah. It's so
And
good.
so I think about those 4 children, and I think about how we respond to them, how we keep them engaged around the table, because in the end, however you want to label them, they're still showing up around the table.
Yes.
Table, the
Oh, God.
Dragons
This
table
is so
too.
good.
They're still showing up around the table.
Yeah.
So then what's our responsibility to them?
I'm a little undecided about the character twist at the end where Will comes out. I found that to be unnecessary.
They started teasing that a little bit in season 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but that does, like, I think it's fine to be teased. If there's no romantic interest, who cares? And
Yeah, it definitely became too centralized of a plot point for season 5 in terms of like, I have to come out or else Vecna's going to use this against me, was a bit, it felt a bit forced of like, that's the thing that he fears.
That he feared.
When
was losing people being his true self. Would people love him for him?
Right, but he also, like, I think they could have gone down this rabbit hole of what you're talking about, of people not believing him as somebody that they could trust as an individual to take care of the things that, like, he's been doubted for years as somebody's competent and capable, but they don't know what he went through that first year where he was stuck in the Upside Down for months, right? And he survived that on his own, right? But still nobody trusted it. I think, actually, now I'm talking to this aloud, I think that's a much better storyline in terms of what he's afraid of is that nobody thinks he can do what he needs to do, right? Like that he doesn't have the faith in himself, and that gaining the faith in himself would have been the stronger. Like he gets that a little bit. It felt a little bit forced for today's world.
I just thought the actual dialogue felt forced. I didn't mind it. So had I felt it had been done really well, like if they had, and I hate, like, there's always like, I don't want to judge it because I think whoever wrote that scene, it was deeply personal to them. And I'm sure that was coming out in it. And considering the writing in the show, like how perfect, it wasn't a completely perfect show, but how near perfect so much of it was, that scene fell flat for me.
It felt forced. It felt like it was written by a straight guy who didn't get advised properly by Yitro, and
didn't have an intro.
And there were also, like, this was during the last few episodes. It was almost like, what were there, 10 in the last season? 8? It was like they promised this number of episodes, and then they realized their writing was like 2 episodes fewer than what they had. And like every scene had this 10-second pause where you're just like staring into the eyes of one of the characters. I'm like, come on, would you just keep talking? I do think, though, that Netflix does this on purpose for the people who are texting and listening at the same time.
Oh, sure, maybe.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Whereas
All right,
I'm
By the
I'm
way-
old enough that I sit and watch TV.
We didn't even, and I know time is a ticking, and I want to respect that, but I just want to say my two favorite characters. One, Eddie, we mentioned him briefly.
Yeah.
R.A.P. Eddie, one of my favorites. I dressed up as him for Halloween a few years ago. I still have my Hellfire shirt. Loved Eddie so much. And I think, by the way, Eddie was that kind of, because Eddie was the near peer, but Eddie was the almost adult that was the first one to believe in Dustin,
Yeah.
to believe in them, to make them feel okay with who they were, because they saw someone that little bit older that had that
Yeah.
confidence, right? That had that kind of inner fire.
Yeah.
The next character we have not mentioned, but who deserves a mention, is Derek.
Oh God.
I loved Derek so much. There aren't enough words.
I had mixed feelings for he was he had good and bad moments for me.
But a kid that was labeled like
Yeah.
he was this. They wrote him as this. He was this kind of kid.
Yeah.
And ends up being. And that just shows you again, like, just because a kid is acting and portraying, maybe he's acting like a bully.
Yeah.
Like, what else is going on deeper than that? No one
Yeah,
is just one thing.
It's just more proof of your labeling. It's spot on. It's spot on.
So.
Yeah.
What about Bob?
What about
Oh,
Bob? It's a
Bob.
great Bill Murray movie.
What about Bob? Season 2. Poor Bob.
Or
I
Barb?
know.
No, Barb wasn't mislabeled at all.
Well,
She only had like an episode.
But I mean, look, Sean Astin in a TV show about four good friends going on an adventure.
Yeah.
Come on.
He was good, but he wasn't mislabeled at all. Maybe that's why he died, because he was properly labeled. I wonder if we went through and found the people properly labeled, if those are the ones that bit the bullet. And I don't know.
Upon my first watch, I'm going to keep an eye out for this now.
Yeah, that's
Got
good.
you.
All right, here's my season 5 rant. And this just upset me because and I get, like, let's mimic. They did a great job of mimicking the D&D table with the action going on every season. I really enjoyed that. But when you get to the big bad boss, you don't walk away with no scratches. It was so the show has a lot of like fantastical, unbelievable things, but they faced the giant Mind Flayer and Vecna, and they all walked away with the least amount of scratches we have seen in the entire series, period. And that all of them, like, I know that you get leveled up as you go on. I get that, but the big bad is supposed to be that hardest one, and it was just more big fanfare and less reality of like a big boss fight.
So,
like there wasn't a risk of, oh my gosh, that person's almost dead. Oh my God. Like none of that happened.
Robin
well,
had
there
a
was
black
that
eye.
one moment. There was the
Oh,
one moment where you were like, "Oh my God, did he just fall off the thing?" And then he.
Oh,
I did.
yeah.
I did.
That was before the BBEG.
But yeah, that did not. I knew that he was not going to die.
Okay.
I just felt that.
So I acknowledge everything you're saying, and I think you're right. It was. It's funny to talk about what's realistic and unrealistic in a show like
Yeah,
this.
it's fine.
But you're right. That in this universe, it did not feel as realistic.
Yeah.
However, and by the way, a show that did this really well was Buffy. The final battle in Buffy.
Yeah, yes.
Real, and that season there were real losses. I mean, Buffy did a lot, but there were real losses.
Yeah.
But you had to think about, like, what can we get away with the fans? Who can we kill off? And the fans are not going to completely.
Yeah, that's fine.
And
nobody died. No big deaths in the final season.
Here's my argument.
Callie, almost.
An argument
kinda.
I'll make for it. You're right. Maybe there should have someone should have lost a limb or an eye or something.
Yeah.
But the argument I'll make is that in the end, was it Vecna / Mind Flayer that was the big bad, or was it their internal like, were they actually their biggest obstacles?
That's not going to swing me, because a good writer, that's the B storyline. You're like, hey, is this really about the A, or is it? No, it's about the B. Of course it's about the B storyline, but the A storyline should still be enticing enough that, like, the fight against the Demogorgons in midway through the season 5 with episode 4, like, where Lucas gets slashed across the chest. They all have this big battle in the field. That one had so much more damage to each individual person than this big bad fight. And I know they went in prepared.
Damage. I mean, this was 5 seasons of like trauma after loss after. I just wonder if they were like, can we get away with more, or is we actually need something? Because I think
It just felt too easy for me as a
they got criticized at the end for the kind of epilogue-y sort of, right? Like
that was a little long.
They tied everything with a bow.
I didn't need this. I didn't need the scene on the roof of the radio station.
That felt like nostalgia, though. That felt like a throwback.
Yeah.
Is this like
those movies?
Yeah.
Are we? Where are they?
And I didn't need it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I agree. I don't know that I needed it, at least that particular scene either. But I will say, this world that we are living in, it felt really good to me to be able to kind of go on in a world where these beloved characters were still there, and I was imagining them in living this they had this deeply traumatic, horrible childhood, and I'm like thinking about, like now they can be happy and they can be thriving and they can be their best selves. And I'm not constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop, because I do think at this moment in time in our worlds, I don't know how you feel, but I'm constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. Something, right? And it gets worse.
Fine.
And you're like, this is the bottom. And then it gets worse again. And you're like, no, now we're at the bottom.
Yeah.
And it felt there was something incredibly relieving, because I was still waiting for it. I was still wondering. I was like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And there was and they almost, right? It was almost so forced. I'm like, they just have to beat it out of us because we expect the worst. And they just have to like force that, no, you're okay. You're safe now. Everybody's safe and you're safe. And maybe it's not realistic, but for me, it felt a little bit like what I needed in this moment in time.
All right.
That's fine. It was too sweet for me. Too saccharine.
I get it.
I think if that scene was a coda to the graduation scene instead of its own scene, then I would have handled it better.
You think it should have ended like the graduation scene and then into the D&D? You should have ended with the.
Yeah, I would have liked it better that way.
Yeah, maybe I would have too.
Well,
and all the pauses.
Yeah,
I certainly enjoy projects that end very well and end very definitively. So on that note, Micol, I really want to thank you for joining us today. I have not seen Stranger Things, clearly, and I enjoyed this conversation a lot, and it's just gotten me excited to actually carve out the time to sit down and watch it. But I
was going to say, it's very obvious that you had this like pent up conversation ready to like, somebody talk to me. Somebody
talk to me. Honestly, I was about to like hold a street in the sign. Talk to me about Stranger Things.
Yeah. We'll work for Stranger Things conversation.
That's great.
So much.
Yeah.
I love it.
Micol, do you have any shout outs, plugs, anything you want to live on in perpetuity on this episode of Torah Smash?
Live on in perpetuity. If anybody wants to know more about the work I do in coaching and professional development, feel free to hop on to my website, wondercoaching.org. And you can learn a little bit more about the work that I do. And I'd like to think that in my work in coaching, I'm hopefully acting as that person in people's life that is helping cheerlead them and helping them believe in their best selves and be it. And maybe that's also part of that connection of why this show is so important to me. But otherwise, my shout out is just to all of the people, all these brilliant storytellers making this really important work that is helping us smile during dark times. So go find your favorite show and get into it. And hopefully it'll put a smile on your face. Or if you're like Barack, watch something that's going to have a really violent end. And if that's bring a smile to your face.
It doesn't need a violent end. It doesn't. It just felt off.
Watch something where the main characters get beat up too.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you all. This is so much fun. I could do this all day long.
Thank you, Micol. This is great.
Micol.
That'll do it for this episode of Torah Smash. Our fiscal sponsor is Jewish Creativity International. Our theme music was created by Sean Fogel. You can check out Sean's bands and studio work at www.thesleepywest.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to rate and review us wherever you listen. It helps others find us and is an excellent way to support the podcast. We want to hear from you and continue today's nerdy discussion. Go to torahsmash.com to find where to connect with us online, purchase swag from our store, support us with a donation, find previous episodes, and more. And why did Murray hate going into the Upside Down? It wasn't because of the monsters. It's just impossible to find a decent bagel place there. Micol, do you know that your dad married my parents? Have I made that connection before?
You said it in the 4 years ago in the
good.
episode. You mentioned
I just repeat
it in
myself
the beginning, and it was so exciting to hear.